Take a look at this one first. Honestly, I think you've gone about as far as you can with this. I think it looks great. You know, like there's not, I just kind of was looking through the details earlier, and I just think like a lot of them are there. And it really just comes down to, it's never going to be perfect because the model's different. But I love the changes you made. I think they were like really smart changes, like over here, going darker with the ear was really nice. Like, I think it brings it closer. Um, you kind of desaturated that blue a little bit that's here, or like just came down with it enough that like it doesn't appear as bright as it was. Um, I think the light on the nose is working a lot, and then the darkening underneath is kind of really, it's hitting that prompt here, that kind of stylized look. Um, and I think, if you showed it back and forward, like, I was trying to get it to look like that, I think anyone would kind of have a easy time seeing it. So, um, yeah, and again, I think there's going to be diminishing returns for as, however much you want to put in this, like moving forward. Um, so I would say like ship it and move on, like approved and move on, like put it on your reel or your resume or your website as a still, or whatever you want to do. Um, if you wanted to keep working on it, like there's probably some like reflection work you can do on the glasses uh, to, like, I see that you have it here, like these two lines, and I think they are actually working pretty nice. Um, just the color seems a little off, but again, it's like super nitpicky, and I wouldn't do it, like personally. I would just move on. Um, but yeah, great work. I mean, it's kind of, you took a shot that I think most people would just kind of move past in the film. Because I think generally when people look for things, they don't look at this as kind of like beauty lighting, and they move on to these colorful action packed shots and stuff like that. But you took this like kind of this nice moment in the story where he's about to get screwed by the guy he's working with, and you kind of transferred it onto like a different model, and I think it's working really nice. So um, yeah, good job. Definitely time to move on from this, I think. So yeah. um, Moving on to this one. So this is the update, and what I have here, I kind of brought up like a bunch of the your old work too, because I wanted a A/B. um, so some of my notes that I think that you covered, and I'll read them out for anybody watching. But it says more bounce light on the characters, change the direction of the character's key light to have more focus on the face and arms of the woman, more bounce light on the characters on a different frame, increase the intensity of the red lights, and darken the corners of the room, got rid of the fog, darken the corners of the floor so it doesn't attract attention away from the characters. For the overhead lights, change the color to be white, created a softer halo around the lights, tried to create a sense of pool of light on the ground from the overhead lights, as was suggested in the last critique. So, yeah, I think you got like the gist of most of the notes, and for the most part, I think like you're moving in the right direction. I just want to point out like a few things here, um, and that's like like doing, like, I feel like you went really far with some of the notes. Specifically, there's two things that stick out right away to me, is like the darkening seems a little too much, and I'm sorry if I led you this way, but it's like you don't want to go so dark that things feel like there's no lighting or something like that. um, you kind of just want to create this like softness here. So I think these pools of light that you tried to create here are nice. I think what you can do is actually increase the softer edge like out, and then you just want to create like I really think you're getting it. Like there's like darkness in the corner here, but I feel like it should be a little softer. You do want to feel pools of light, but these kind of lights generally won't produce this like kind of like a sharp edge that you have. It'll be just kind of softer and radiating out from there to darkness. And so I think like what you need is just a little bit more like light that's like softer on those pools and like kind of getting out further into the scene. So like this one here, when we were chatting about this one, I was saying that like this one's a little better because the corners were a little darker, and this shot here was really, really bright on the edges. So I think you need, like, just seeing this, you need to go like 50-50. So wherever you were on the darkness of the floor before, like in terms of where the edges were, I think you need to like come back now a little bit from that. And I think that'll essentially get you, softness up to like here. So that like, because you have a piece here that you're missing entirely, like this guy that she kills earlier or whatever. And I think you want to feel that inside the, the light. So I would say like up till here, that's kind of where the light should come through. Yeah, and then here I think these should be like a lot softer. The other thing that I was mentioning was that when you have like metal work in the dark, it's always nice to add, specular hits to them. And you kind of have some for free here, but I think you're going to have to just add some specular lights in there, and it'll help to kind of kick out all the detail here. It's going to be like low level, but just something to add, something to add just some detail back into your scene without taking like anyone's eye away from the action. Yeah. Okay, so moving forward, I think some of the character stuff you did is like working. Like I actually really like, like how you framed this character now. Like it feels really nice. It's feeling kind of like a soft light, which it should, from the overheads. Like it's reading really well on her. I think that this level of brightness to darkness that you have on this character, brightness to darkness, like that same level, you should actually feel the same level on this guy. Like I think he's too filly pretty much on this shot and this shot. Somehow like here he feels really like like he doesn't have that like top lighting. It's just because I think that bounces too much. Maybe even like with her, but definitely with him. I think if like this guy, if this bounce light comes down on him, he'll feel a little better. And then I think because he's metallic, you should feel like specular hits on him more than you do on her. And something's definitely broken with her eyes here. Unless, I'm not sure, like I haven't opened this scene, so maybe that's the texture, I'm not sure, but it seems like something's broken. Yeah, so let's kind of, I want to get to this one, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out a roto paint, and I just want to show you like a few areas, and I'll paint on this frame so that you have a better, like, you can stop on the frame and you have like a better idea of what I'm talking about. So, you took the fog out, which, I think there's something to be said for like the loss of it. you know, it's like I feel like maybe it went too far, but here the bloom is like it's too much. You know, it goes out too far. Like when I was talking about blooming the lights earlier, um, it's like a really subtle thing. You know, it's like it's the difference between three things. The first one is the brightness of the bulb. The second one is the brightness that the bulb, you know, the brightness and the color that the bulb actually puts out to its environment. And then this kind of softness is like a kind of like a diffusion on the light, and that kind of softness should always be like really subtle. You know, like I think you probably need like 10% of this in terms of the distance. So I just feel like it's, you know, here it's looking a little unnatural, and I would kind of come back down on that distance. So to sum up, before I do any paint stuff, I think you're basically like three or four actions away from having a really successful image. The first one is to soften those pools of lights so that they extend out further. The second one is to decrease the amount of bounce on this character here, and then increase some specularity on him or it, whatever it is. And then so even in here you might want to like darken the character a little bit, fix these halos around your light, and then get some specular accents on your background. Also, just looking at it before, you know, I never noticed that this was like is this like a window and it's looking out to space? I'm just not sure. But I think it, like, whatever it is, you know, that's not it, because I know that there's one open window. Oh yeah, here. And then that looks like you're looking out in space. Yeah, I don't know what you want to do with that, because right now it's like completely black. That could be fine. If you have like a door that's closed here, adding a little bit of light onto it, like just a tiny bit, you know, like another like specular hit on that door back there, or whatever it is. Let me see, is there any yeah, so if this is a closed door, just get like a little something on there when you put like specular highlights on your set. Yeah, so now that that's kind of laid out, let's kind of do a paint real quick. Okay, so the lighting from the top here, I think, should kind of extend to there, you know, like, but softly. You know, you shouldn't actually. Sorry, my cat's trying to jump on my desk here. So yeah, you just want like a softer light so that this character goes into that. Sorry, I'm fighting my cat off. so that the cat, you know, it just softly emanates to the edge, and I think it'll. Come on, there you go. Sorry. So yeah, it's like there, and then, you know, you should feel it like behind him here, and then it should go all the way, you know, so you have this like pool of light. If you look at like what you had earlier, you were kind of in that same location, but it's just that these areas need to go darker. So if I grab like another Vertical paint. Apply it on this one. And then instead of painting, just gonna so, you know, if like you know, you kept the red on the character and you did something like this, you know, then, you know, now you're in a situation where you're kind of getting close to, you know, where you were. So something like that on the pool of light. You know, you want the pools of light to kind of mix a little bit, and you want them to create this like center, you know, interest on the frame somewhere. So like going back and forth, you know, I think like that's really the difference, is just taking these pools that you already have and extending them out. So same thing here, you know, like if you go back to your original, and I'm just gonna change frames, like, you know, you want to just like darken these edges like softly, you know, so that you create that like pool. And again, like it's not even as soft as it should be here, but it's just something that'll help like sit your scene in, and it'll kind of provide us like a staging area for where we need to be. So, you know, sometimes one of the interesting things you can do is like you have an A-B and you want to like kind of go in between. So that's literally what I'm doing here. I'm just overing one over the other, and then I'm mixing them, and you can see like immediately, because you're adding that light back, you know, like it's starting to look like a little you know, nicer. And I'm just doing like an A over B. I'm not doing a plus or a multiply, so I'm just doing like a straight mix of like one and the other, and like it's like helping to, you know, with like what we're talking about, getting that light in the center. You don't want to lose it too much, and you know, you still want to have like a pool of light that's like influencing where we look at, and you do want to see this guy in it, because like that's kind of, you know, that's kind of where she was fighting him, or, you know, or like the first one. Again, I'm not quite sure like how the animation works out. So if we go to this shot here, so if I actually just like do an A over B on a bunch of these, you'll see that like it's somewhere right in the middle of where you know, where you need to be. So you know, like I said, even getting rid of these volumes, you know, I don't feel like you need to get rid of them. You just need to make it so that they're softer coming down, and they don't end abruptly. And then you don't want them like over your characters so much, you know. Just like if you have any mats or something of your characters, you can shave them off of that that fog, and it'll help like pull them forward and push your background back. But you don't want like the fog as much as you had it in this scene. So again, like this is like a mix, and all I'm doing is actually like I'm only like doing A over B like 20%, you know, and like the floor is looking nice, the red's coming through, and like that little bit of fog that's being added is like just the right amount, you know. And then if I do another paint on this one, so if I just grab the hey, nope. Nope. I'm sorry. And we just kind of, whoops, that's too much brains. So, you know, if you just like add some shadowing to your character here, you know, I think it'll play better, because it just seems like too filly. So I just feel like that bounce light that you added, you just went a little too high on. And then the other thing I would do is I would just go ahead and nope. Can't check up here. I'm sorry guys, give me 1 second. Sorry, this is getting too much. You know, I think like this character just needs a little extra. Oh boy. Like highlight, you know, on the top. So wherever you might see, you know, some specular highlight, I think it'll help, you know, like on the hand here, you know, like wherever you might see, you know, some detail, I think you can like push that a little bit just to like get some extra details out. So if you know, if we A/B between this, you can see how like immediately, you know, that character's standing out a little bit more. And like same thing on the bottom of the character. I think like she's a little too filly for the scene, you know. So whatever bounce that you added, I would probably back off on it about 30%. So if I go back to this brush here and I just like grab it. You know, like just something like that where you know, that's gonna help. And then I think like sometimes you might worry about like, oh, is she not gonna stand out? I think what you need to do is treat the reds and the overheads, some overheads, like to give her a little bit of like, you know, like light in her hair. And that's too soft. You know, you can just kind of like feel a little bit of that light in her hair, and then like maybe do some like rims, you know, on some parts of her, you know. So just little hits. And then as far as your background is concerned, what I would do there is I would take like a low level blue. You know, I was seeing that a lot. It's like a good color because it's kind of contrasting with your red, and oh boy, yeah, it's kind of like you know, it'll kind of contrast with your red a little bit, and and you just want to like add a little, it's too bright. You know, just add like little hits in your scene, and even that is like, you know, way too bright. Let me see if I can just get it with color instead. You know, just something a little bit in there to kind of like get the point across that there's like some detail back here, you know, but like you don't want to read it at all. You just want to feel it, you know. You just want to feel like there's something back here. So you know, this isn't the greatest paint over. You know, you can spend a lot of time doing stuff, but just trying to give you a sense of like what, you know, what that goes with. And then like if I added over your other, you know, your other, the one with the A being, you know, like suddenly you're like almost there. I would maybe just stay a little darker right in the very corners. But yeah, I mean, I like the choices you made on some of these shots. You know, I think like you took the notes and, you know, and you went through them, and you know, like I think you went like all the way, and now you just need to come back down just a little bit, just to get some of like, so this isn't the exact same frame, but it might still work. Yeah, so you see how that, like, you know, like the little bit of fill just gives you something in your scene. You know, you don't want to like lose, you don't want to go to like just a full black. You know, you'll have a much like better image when you kind of mix those together. So yeah, honestly, good job. I think it's really close. Like I said, it's just like a few, it's like taking lights that you already have and just adjusting them either to be like bigger and softer or a little bit more specular. You know, like this character here, like at the end, he has some nice specular hits. So I would expect that same kind of specular on these characters here. And like, you know, I think like you were getting them initially. So don't lose those, you know, like accentuate them, keep, you know, like use your shadows as you can. And yeah, so I think it's really close. You're just gonna like make a few adjustments, and you'll see that then it'll just be like you'll be at that 95% after you make these adjustments, and then it'll just be getting like the really like beauty lighting in there. So cool. Yeah, nice work. Moving on. So I have this here. Jordan, you're here, right?
Yes.
Okay. So do I have, so this says pass one, this says rough comp, and then this one says paint over, and this is like some of your reference.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I think you have like a. Is there a difference between? It seems like there's no major difference between rough comp and pass one.
Maybe I added the wrong one. I might have added the wrong one. There's like a slight. The only difference between the two is I just added just a little bit of.
I see. Okay, yeah. So like that'll add some like haze and stuff like that in here that yeah you're missing. Uh, you know, I actually really I like what you're doing with your paint over. I think maybe it could be getting a tad too like bright on this paint over, like with that light coming in. But I like your instinct for like what's happening in the corners, and like darkening this like far away area because you know you don't want to draw your eye too far out. The one thing that I would add is that I feel like it's missing is more like specular shaping on your main character. So you know he's in this like shadowy area, but I think you can like really accentuate his or her shape, um, while still keeping it in shadow. And I think that's gonna be something that you do with like some kicks and maybe like a rim on some side, and like it'll feel kind of specky in nature. So let me see if I can. Okay. Hmm. So the other thing that I would say is that like one of the things is looking at some of your references here. Oh, sorry, that's not your reference. I went and looked that up. So looking at some of your references, I think your color work is good. Like, you chose good colors. The only thing I would say is sometimes you can add in like a bit of a contrasting color to help you get some interest in there. Like when I look at this, I see a lot of like browns and yellows. It's like I see the greens as well, but they're part of the scene. I'm talking more about like your light sources. If you have this like sky coming through, you can like, so I have like a blue color here, and I'm gonna try to see if like using that as your like specular hit might help. So let's see. Did I just? Yeah, that was terrible. So, getting like some like shadow like speck in here can help like really accentuate your character's shape. And that might not be like the color you want or something, but I was just kind of experimenting because I thought it would be interesting if like the leaves seem a little flat to me in terms of their like they seem really matte. There's no like specular highlighting on them. I see that they're getting like blown out here, which is it's fine. Like a lot of the references I looked at were like that as well. But a lot of times, when you look at a plant, it just has like some specular sheen over it, and I think like taking that same color and like applying it to your scene can help just add some value of like the sky that might be coming through, like whatever ambient lighting that you have coming through. You can use that to accentuate your characters. And then on the flip side, when you're doing like a rim, you can give them like a kind of like a warm, you can give them like a warm rim or something like that. And that, but it's like low level. So it's like in your, I really gotta find like you just want something that's gonna kick this like creature off of that background, because right now when I look at it, and especially if I look at your luminance here, it gets muddy in here. Like the character and the ground here like merge, even like back here, and and you're looking over here. And I think what's going to happen is, in your scene, when the character's like running through and it goes through light and then back into dark, it's going to like, and maybe you want this, but it's going to like, you're almost going to lose your character amongst everything. And I think the reason why like a blue speck or just some other kind of color, introducing it in there, is that it'll differentiate it more from like the green plants as well. So it's like your main character is kind of greenish, the the plants are also greenish, so I think you can just add just like little shaping lights that kind of follow the character through the shot, and it'll help you like get that character to really like stand out a little bit. So I was trying to find like some like evidence of this and some reference, and I just wanted to show you like even this character here, like there's some like bounce warmth coming from here, like that's actually shaping the character. Same thing with the neck, and then there's some like other color coming right there. this character's a little bit more like flat. But here you can see like, like the way the light is hitting the character is accentuating like the character's shape. And you can see that like even though the sunlight is kind of coming, that way from behind, you're getting like a different color on this side than you are on this one. You can kind of like work those two colors to help you get low level kicks off the background and shaping of your character's like musculature and actions to help you as you're moving forward. I went and like looked up some reference because I was curious like how they did that. And one of the things you can do in jungles, so this is like another note you might want to like take, is like when you're in a jungle there's a lot of haze, there's just like a lot of humidity rather, and the humidity creates like atmosphere, so that's kind of why like this works. But as you get further from the screen, you can add like a little bit of like blue green into your atmosphere, and it will make it feel like it's humid. It'll make it like, it'll give it that like atmospheric look, because here you have like sunlight coming through, but back there is just like, it's just like atmospheric. It's just like you're just seeing atmosphere between you and like that item because it's so far. So like if you look back here, it's kind of the same thing, like back there is kind of like hazy and humid, and like they played it kind of like safe here color wise. There's no like major color, but you can definitely like throw some color back there to like help with that. Like the jungles in Rio 2, I hate to like show this work. I wonder if, yeah, so like if you look back there, there's like a lot of like green in the back. So just think about like throwing in some extra like color into your atmosphere and your depth, instead of keeping it that warmish like grayish color that you have right now. I think it'll like add some interest to and play. So but yeah, that's like my one big note for you, was just I think you can like shape the character a little better, so we get a sense of the character's like shape and action. I think you could like add some specular hits to some of the plants. And, they don't all have to be specular. Some of them can be just like big leaves that just have like subsurface, and that's it. But like it's nice to just throw in a little bit of like specularity in there, and then I would just like throw like put in like a Z, like grab a Z in in depth, and then just throw in like a color into your depth, so that like you'll never get there, and it's just camera based. I think it could like, you could play with the colors and like get something like really like nice and special in there. So yeah, that's all I think. But yeah, it's a good setup, and I'm interested to see like the animation, to see how it plays. One of like a good reference to take from for like major motion and like a jungle is also like Avatar. They do a lot of cool stuff in like jungles and running through them, and with action, you can see like how they hit all that action and still like get a read. I mean, their characters are blue, so it kind of helped. But yeah, but
Thank you so much.
yeah, really nice work.
Thanks. I got on that.
So Justin, yeah, nice update from yesterday. Like it's starting to look really soft and nice. I like what you did with her eyes. I've had this happen before, like where one of them is one of them is like offset from the other, you know, like it's just due to like the way that the character's looking. My suggestion would be is if this is a still, I would just like maybe even kill those dings and then just paint like a sharp ding right in on the character, because it's kind of hard to get like really nice like ding work on the character. But I like the placement. I think it looks good. If you have like a points pass, um, there's like P mats out there that you can get where like it's like you can just stick like a mat on your points like pass and it'll just be sticky. So when if your character was to move around, like that mat would stay. You can like use stuff like that to get like dings as well over time. And then but yeah, I mean honestly I think everything is working here. um, the only the only other thing I might say is and I like this light that you put back here. I think it helps a little bit. The only thing I might say is like somehow this thing here still feels a little artificial to me. I don't know if it's the shading or like the way the stars like are shadowing or something like that. But it just feels like it's neither here nor there. Like it's not in the sunlight, but it is, and then there's no like other light hitting it. So I I feel like you either need to like fill it in with a low level color or something, or you need to like maybe remove it even further from that like sunlight. Let me do a quick test and see if I just like darken it a little bit, if that'll do it. So if I just grab it. So if I doing this without like with like a mouse is so I'm just trying to see if like if it was darker, if it would like help or not. Yeah, maybe a little darker. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I think it's looking really nice. I'd say like you can't really add much more to this. And I think you did a really nice job with the character shaping. If you wanted to try, I think the only other thing that you could do is like throw in like a slight like kick on this character. Uh, let's like have a look at her like luminance real quick. It's like from, let me get that over. From like here to here is kind of like a little flat, you know. You might try to experiment with just like going back to the RGB. Actually, I wonder if like I wonder if like the smallest bit of like color coming from like down here like artificially, you know, like have it skip all this other stuff. But something like really really low level could help. And then it would just like hit the it would just like hit her ear a little bit. I don't know. It's not like super important. I don't know like how much of a difference it'll make. But it's just something that like you see a lot, and like it could also like hit the hair like a little bit. It could be like a nice accent. But honestly, it's like a really nice piece. The only other thing that I would try is like I was kind of like thinking about the work that you submitted yesterday, and one of the things I really like about it was, the other one with the sun was just how colorful it was, and so sometimes what I do for color is just to try some stuff out is like you can take a still. So you can take like a ramp. This is gonna seem really like strange, but it works on like a in a weird way. So you could just take a ramp and then use the ramp as a mat, and then because you have the ramp, now what you can do is just like start adjusting your colors. And it's just a way that I like, it's something I like to do to see if like introducing some color to my scene could like accentuate it in some way, so right now I have like that ramp, and I'm adding some like purple across the scene, like on this side, and it just gives like some color to your shadows so that like your shadows don't feel super neutral. And like it's just like a really quick way, I'm sure like you've done this in like with your photography and stuff, but it's just a nice quick way to try stuff. So I would do that one, and then make another grade, and then invert that ramp, and then see if like going a little warmer on that side, so it's just like things you can try, because it was like something I was missing from that I liked about your other one was just like how nice and colorful and playful it was. And I think like adding a little bit of color back can kind of remove can just like bring some of that color back. And then looking at it again and like luminance, the other thing I would say is like I think this dark line here, maybe you can soften that some way. It somehow like the more I like mess with this, the more I like I'm looking at it constantly. But I like the breakup. I just think like it needs to either be like softer or just less different. And then you get into the question of like, what are your shadows, like what do your shadows look like and what color are they? So this line to me like reveals that there's like not much color in the shadows, and not that that's a problem, but it's a revealing element of your lighting. So yeah, I don't know, just like think about stuff like that, like color work, and seeing how you can push it one way or another. But yeah, honestly, even without that, I think it's like really successful on a lighting on a lighting end. Like I feel her face looks really nice. This guy's looking, really cute. The light that's hitting the couch is actually broken up really well, and I think there's like a good breakup to it. Sometimes it's like big spots and it'll take up your eye, so it's just like nice enough that it doesn't do that. So yeah, good job. I don't like it's up to you how far you want to go with it, and if this was like a small test for you and you wanted to move on to something like bigger or animated, like go for it. But you can also keep playing with like different looks and like different colors and things like that. So yeah, good job.
Great. Thanks, Christos. I love that concept of playing with the color. I think that's what was missing from the one before. So I like that idea.
Yeah, like this is like something that I pulled from working in Lightroom. You can just like slap ramps everywhere and like adjust things. So and like this is kind of what it looks like. It's just like just take a ramp, move it around, and then adjust. And I do that a lot. Just especially when I feel like I don't have a clear path forward. Like that's one of my go-to's is like stick a ramp and see what I can do with it, and or like stick an exposure node and start exposing different values. But exposure nodes are harder if you're not dealing with like your raw frames. So if you're not rendering like your 32 bits or your 16 bits images, it's like harder to work around. Whereas this one, you're just kind of throwing color in. Yeah. And then Ruby, cool. Yeah, I like a lot of what's like changed. And I didn't bring up your older version. Give me a second. I can A/B this. Yeah, so it's like feeling super nice. Like I think, like a lot of the colors are kind of working together. I see this like same color rim on the characters. Let me grab. Hold on a sec. I'm gonna grab one more. I should be doing this before, but yeah. So looking at like your original reference, like I think you're getting like much closer to it. Like I really like your colored shadows. I like the way everything's looking in the background. I do think like there might be a little bit too much. Like it looks a little Vaseline, like if that makes sense. It's like it looks smeary, like there's like Vaseline on the lens. So you want to like careful that you don't get this like overall like uh, bloom. It has to be like you want it to be kind of contained to your like brightest um, like objects. So like I'd expect a little bit like here and here, like as you have. But when you apply it to like low level objects in your scene, that's when I think that uh, that I think that's when like you get like some like smeariness like that. So I actually have to work on a shot in Spies in Disguise where the director specifically asked for like a really smeary look, like they wanted it to look like Vaseline, and I have to tell you, like when you're like when you're working on something like this and you're constantly like making it like tight and you're controlling where it is, it's really hard to like go back because you're kind of fighting against yourself. So, but yeah, I mean, I like a lot of what you're doing. So the first thing I'm going to say as a note is that I think you can push this background even more, and I'm going to do a quick comp just to show you like what that might look like. Um, and I think like some of these areas here, they're looking a little bit floaty. So I would hope that there's like some way for you to introduce maybe some like a grounding shadow or something underneath there. Like I feel like this one here and she is feeling really good. Feels like they're on the floor, but some of these petals, um, it's hard because it's just touching on this tip, and then there's so much ambient light that you don't get that. But I still feel like maybe a little bit of darkening under here could go a long way towards making those feel like they're hitting. Um, Other thing I was gonna say is that uh, so here's another like thing you guys. Oh, wait. So I'm gonna just, am I going crazy? Ah, there we go. Sorry. And overlay. Oops. So I'm just pulling in these colors, and like, you might move away from this as your main reference, and that's fine. But I'm just kind of like, sometimes I like doing this to see them both together, and you could do like a quick wipe, and like right away, you can kind of tell, that some of like the highlight of her face color is like, maybe, let's see. So that's like a little red, and then this one. Yeah, so just like analyzing the frames here, I feel like you can, if you want like this level of brightness, you can see immediately that like the brightness levels are much like lower. But I understand that, like these, let me turn off these ramps, sorry. I understand that these like characters are, they're different, and they're gonna react differently. But I think like maybe what you can do is introduce like a little bit of brightness along the edge. So if I jump over to your luminance, from here to here is looking a little flat, and I would just hope that like along the edge you can get, just a little bit more brightness, and then I think what it'll do is it'll have that effect, because if you look at the luminance here, you're seeing like a good ramping of that like brightness into the edge. I think it'll just give you like really nice, like what you have is already good. I just think it needs a little bit of a brighter edge from the direction that your key is coming, and I think it'll like, I think it'll work out really well. The other thing I was going to say is that I think like whatever level you end up here as like her face value, it should also be like on the rim and on his hand, and like maybe like, and then like a little bit lower level here, because he has a colored shirt, but like on his pants, so like imagine that the same light is hitting them, and it has like the same, it's the same light, so it's the same brightness. I think it'll like marry them, a little bit, like into the same scene. Because right now I feel like this is a little bit less bright than what's hitting her, in here. And again, like anything anything where like the object has like a color, especially like a saturated color, the same light will not work the same way. So like you'll have to either like make a different light or like boost it, on that character. But yeah, because that will like having a bright like rim here to match like wherever you end up here, I think will just like make it super clear that these two are like your focus. But that being said, I do like what you're doing with the colors on this character. I think that's really working. I think you could actually go even a little brighter on the inner rim here, like that kick light. I think it'd be a little bit brighter. You don't want it to compete with this one, but I think like if you just pushed it a little bit more, it would reveal itself. It wouldn't be so hidden. Sometimes you don't want to see them, and sometimes you do. And it's kind of up to you. If you increase it and it feels wrong, bring it back down. It's okay. Like I'm not perfect on everything. But honestly, I really like the way everything's laying out here. I think it's like really pretty. I think it's like moving forward really quickly, I think you might want to try like getting the ground to have a little bit more like brightness to it from this light, and it will have like a really soft shadow moving this way, not onto her, but like, like behind her, like really, really soft. And then same thing here, because I think it'll just help like ground them in, that lighting that you're doing here. And then as far as like the background goes, so so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a comp and then over it, like over what you have. And I think it could, so what I want to do is I want to grab a certain section of your BG. I'll be a little more careful on this one since it affects. Okay, and then so essentially I'm just grabbing this background plate and then I want to see if I can get it to be okay, cool. And then I'm gonna do color correct. I'm gonna, so just to give you an idea, I've taken that, and what I'm trying to do with the color correct is just bring up some of the brights in the background. So I'm just I've increased the highlights, but I can see that it's like not actually picking those up, and I'm just gonna play with the ranges. So if I bring in my properties tab, I'm just playing with the ranges until I see like that coming through. I'm just gonna make some space. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So now that I have that, I can increase that even more. Let's do something insane just to try. And then when I defocus it, it'll kind of end up looking like that. And now when I just over it, over your original background, so it like, it looks kind of goofy, at first. But what I'm trying to like just get at is that, like, if I move, I'll remove all these like characters from that as much as I can, because that's where like the weird like shapes are coming through. And what you can do with the background too is now it's like now you have a different like setup, so you can kind of do something like this, and then maybe, because you have some elements on the side, I'm just gonna but what I'm getting at is like now you're getting to that point where you've pushed your depth of field a lot, and because you've done that, and again, let me just see. I'm just push that background a little more. It's like it could be, even this stuff could be blown out, like fully in the depth of field if you want it to be. It doesn't have to be super in focus. But what I'm getting at now is that, like, since you have that stuff, and you can actually take this and you can turn it into 20. Now you have this like background to play with that gets you to this like to this level where the background is now just a color with like a few of these things, and you're gonna need to like control those. You're gonna need to control each of those to make sure that they're in the right place. Like if you don't have one somewhere where you want it, you're just gonna have to like paint one in prior. So like I can do that here. Like, so let's say we're getting too much here and I want an extra one here. I can just actually take like a roto paint here, and then let's turn the overlay on. So now you can just say let's do plus, and then you can just do that. And now if you look after your Z to focus, you have extras there. So you can kind of like add them in your background or remove them as needed, and that's kind of what's happening. I don't know why I don't want to move this stuff. But yeah, you don't want to include the it's just like a background object, so you don't want it like coming in front. But it can just help you, the reason why I'm bringing this up is like it can help you to get that like micro feeling, like it's a toy, it's a really small like object, and like you want to pull that in and get people feeling that way. Now this is just like a bad slap comp of it, but I'm trying to show you that like you can have this like really, really nice background, and like if after this I did this like crop, I just want to show you how close you can actually get to like your source material. It's like if you did a crop like there, and I got rid of the background. So I'm just gonna center her, like it's about there. So like if we look at this and then compare it to that, you sort of get to that feeling where like, hey, she's like a small object, and you have that like really nice bouquet background. I know like as a lighting exercise, you might want to like light these guys in the background. And again, like I'm going extremely far with this, like I'm taking it like as far as you can possibly go. You don't have to go that far, but I just think like if you add a little bit more depth of field and these guys get a little brighter, you'll actually feel that that bouquet in the background, and it'll add like a nice element to your scene. And then everything that you like throw, like all the lights that you throw back here, all the shaping that you will add, to like these background objects will just like accentuate that background. So yeah, I think like, for basically you started this like last Thursday, I think, you've come a really long way. I really like the dings that you have. I like that this guy's dings are kind of like in a different place. I like the general shaping of things. I think your values just need a little work, and you're pretty close. Think about that shadow thing, see if you can get it, and the grounding, and I would consider maybe like some kind of like shaping light on this one, either a top light, or even this one. Like I see you have it. I would maybe like increase it a little bit just to throw some interest into your frame. But yeah, for just like a single week of work, I think like it's looking really good. So you're pretty close. It's just like minor, small things now.
Awesome, thank you. I really like the the comp that you just did. It looks really nice with the whole bouquet and stuff. I'll try it for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like a simple thing, you know. It's like if you like a lot of times if you're trying to render depth of field in your renderer, it'll take a really long time. So if you're like short on time or render power, like definitely look into the Z defocus node. If you have a Z like actually out there, like defocus your it will actually like defocus your background like properly. You know, you just have to like feed the Z into it. Um, and yeah, I think you can, because then you can just like paint stuff in as you need it, you know. And right now, like just looking at this background, like without it, it feels, kind of busy. So you kind of clean up your background without it, with it. So yeah, really cool.
Great,
Um,
thank you.
and then